Well, hello and welcome to another Geospatial-Next talk. The title of today's talk is One Simple Way to Minimize Geospatial Product Failure. Let's dive in. Well, as I've got there at the top of the slide, this talk is in many ways a reflection on my 25 years in the geospatial industry. So just some of the thoughts that I've had, and probably the biggest challenge I think the industry faces, it has faced historically and continues to face. So my journey began in the mid-90s. I came to America from England and did a graduate degree in about 1995. My journey, my world of geospatial over 25 years has really seen two geospatial revolutions. The first one was where I began my career with web technology. My graduate degree was writing a WebGIS application using ArcObjects IMS, MapObjects IMS, ArcObject, I forget which one it was now. I think it was MapObjects IMS. It's the first Esri technology for the web. And then around 2009, 2010, the mobile revolution. So we've really seen two technology revolutions, and geospatial's kind of been at the heart of that. And we've seen our industry grow and change over those two revolutions. My suggestion in Geospatial-Next is that we're in the midst of a third revolution, and it's bigger than those two combined, and actually it sits on the shoulders of the web and mobile revolutions. And I'm picking up that there's an increasing focus as this revolution takes hold and as we begin to change. We're beginning to see much more talk about innovation, which is my area of focus, and products as well. So that's sort of where this talk is going to take us to, around those particular themes. So my journey was really split into two parts. I spent the first part of my career as a technologist. I actually was very focused on web technology. So I was working through the technology stack as a developer, building out web-based and mobile applications, latterly mobile applications. But I always knew my heart really ultimately was on the business side of things. In fact, probably without me fully realizing it, the reason to learn the technology was because I knew at some point I would work in the business world, and having that technology understanding has been a massive help in my career. So it's really been a two-part journey for me. But I've noticed a truism that is appearing, particularly of late. I keep hearing people talk about data and technology and insight. They sort of attach these things, and they make this sort of suggestion that customers really are after insight. Well, that's not correct. Again, let's make the truism true. Let's mention the truism that customers don't want insight. They want answers to questions. Increasingly, we live in a complex world with lots of data, all sorts of technology choices. Customers really want answers to questions to solve problems that they've got. And that's our job. So let's step back for a second with that in mind, and just let me just walk through my career a little bit. I actually spent the first part of my career as a technologist in the dotcom world, and I worked with a number of different companies. Here in Utah, I actually worked with a company that was building a wizard to create online stores, and this was in the late 90s. So this was during the dotcom boom, and they were building out this wizard. And actually, the company was bought for a lot of money by Excite at Home. If anyone remembers that company, it was a search engine, Excite, who ultimately went bust. I then started working. I worked in California. I actually worked for a company that was trying to build an internet browser for set-top boxes. That was in around about 2000. So again, during that dot-com boom, and they were hoping to put weather and news, etc., on what was then a pretty early into the world of set-top boxes. And then the third company that I worked for in the sort of startup mode was a company building this massive solution which allowed folks to manage data centers. So it was a software solution to manage data centers. I thought when I first worked for them that the technology sounded pretty cool. I was pretty horrified, amazed by how much money they were spending. Just none of them had customers. We'll get to that. And they all failed, and they all failed pretty miserably. They wasted a lot of money and they wasted a lot of talent on ideas that sounded cool but never sold. So that's in the dot-com world. In the geospatial world, I've seen some similar things around this idea of you know what products to sell, solutions to sell. The first one was really sticks in my mind that when we first had the web, there was this idea that, and in fact I spent chunks of my time doing this, that we should recreate desktop applications like ArcMap for the web, which fundamentally was flawed in my mind at the very outset, because my understanding of the web was it was this widely accessible technology that allowed everyone access to maps and answers to questions that were geospatial in our world. I never imagined that we were going to distribute desktop applications to experts that were using the web. It was never what I thought, but we did spend a lot of time doing exactly that. I remember working more than once having this situation come up where an MVP was built. An MVP is basically called a minimum viable product. So something technological that maybe solves a problem, maybe. And then the company not wanting to spend more money on this MVP and asking sales folks to see if they can find customers to help fund the product. Yeah, I'm making a face there. And then the third one was taking a product built, and this is one particular situation that I remember clearly, taking a product that was built for one sector and seeing if it could be sold into every sector. The results of each of those things were pretty miserable failures. None of them got off the ground. So there's the world of geospatial, there's the world of dot-com, and there's some similarity between what we're seeing here. None of those organizations asked a simple, easy question. And that question is, what customer business problem are we solving? Again, what customer business problem are we solving? It seems so simple. The secondary question from that, and a natural question to ask after that, is solving this problem of high value to customers? And I've got the S in bold there. So I don't just mean to a single customer, I mean to a group of customers, to a marketplace. It seems like I'm stating the obvious with those two questions. It really seems like textbook stuff. In fact, when I first started working on the business side of geospatial, I thought all this stuff was dialed in. This was the obvious journey that organizations took to get to products. So obvious. And yet, the question was so rarely asked. I was always perplexed. I remain perplexed that is so rarely asked. That primary question, and then this follow-up secondary question. So what are the results of not asking or knowing the answer to this question? Yeah, you guessed it, failure. 9 times out of 10, you're going to fail. If you don't know the answer to that question, you're guessing. And if you're guessing, your chance of success are reasonably slim. So why do I suspect that we've gone down this path? Why do I suspect the obvious isn't being asked? My suspicion is that technology is easy and cool. It's really, again, I'm cautious about the word easy. Of course, there's lots of super clever people that to them is easy, but that whole area is an easy place to go to first. If we build it, they will come. Problem discovery is really hard. This is what I've realized over time. It's really difficult to tease out problems, to actually understand those high value problems. It's very tough. So this is the last slide, and I'm actually going to take this slide, and this will be the next talk that I'm going to do, because I want to dive a little bit deeper into what I'm going to talk about in these bullet points. So my belief is the first thing is you have to have a framework in place. You can't live in a world that's unstructured. You need structure, and a framework gives you structure to arrive at what I see as a journey from nothing to a solution to a particularly challenging problem that customers have got. You need to follow a certain sequence to get to that endpoint, that success. That's guided by the framework. It's not always the 1, 2, 3s, but the framework provides guidance to that sequence. It makes sense to go from 1 to 3 to 5, however that sequence looks based on where you are, where the customer is, etc. But you need that framework, and you need a sequence which is guided by that framework. You need the right people. I can't emphasize this one enough. We have technologists who like talking technology. We have business folks who are really good at talking business. And we have what I've always believed, and when I talk to students that are graduating from geography and GIS departments, this is to me the biggest need in the industry, is those people that sit in the middle, the translators. I would argue they're amongst the most valuable people in organizations, those people that can bridge the gap between those two groups. I think those are key in this conversation, driving it, organizing it, and bringing the right people into the room. And the last one is moving beyond simply throwing the word innovation around. I see the word innovation used continuously, and often it's associated with technology. It's not enough related to business, but innovation is really the coming together and the synergy between innovation and business, and they work together. And within what I'm suggesting here, and again, I know the question is the thing that leads this conversation, there is a journey that needs to be taken, which is a journey of innovation, and it sits with those two things synergistically together with the right people who understand both of those pieces and are talking to customers. So I'll explore this further in the next conversation, this particular slide, but as ever, I welcome any feedback you might have. And for this talk, thanks ever so much for watching. Thanks for joining us on the Geospatial-Next channel. We're focused here on understanding the future of geospatial. That's both how we get to mainstream adoption of the technology and data, and how we start using blockchain and crypto to move things forward. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.